Welcome to an instructional video for Google Classrooms for first-time users and for people who've used Google Classroom before, going forward perhaps thinking of using Google Classrooms as an option for student remote learning. Let me jump straight into it. For people first time ever using, if you've never signed into Google with your CG Google account, simply go to Google homepage, click on sign in, take you to this where you put in your CE credentials. Quite often, first time it'll ask for your password. It's obviously saved my password. Click past those things. It might take you to another sign-in page, the Canberra Goulburn CNet sign-in page. You just need to put your first name, last name, and the same password again, and it should bring you to Google page and probably your initials up there in the far right hand corner. So to launch into Google Classrooms, I'm going to click on the Google Apps section over here, scroll down to Classroom, and this is your list of classes. So over here to create a class, plus button. Just going to call it simple things at the moment, so I'm going to call my class 4 Gold. You can add more information in here, but at this point it's not super necessary. Okie dokie. So you've got your classroom up and running and ready. If students have already decided to start staying home, ways that you can give this information to parents. You could be code. So in the Google Classroom dashboard, which is back here, you'll also see in that plus button there's a join class section. So for students who want to join a class, they would click on here, and this is the code that you would provide. So again, you could send it via email. This could be printed off on small pieces of paper that parents come and collect, and then that will allow students to actually join the classroom. A couple of options going forward too. My suggestion here within our school is for the remote learning opportunities, we're going to add all staff, all teaching staff across the school to every single one of our classrooms, and I'll tell you a little bit further on down the track about why we're doing that. So up here it's just as simple as typing in people's emails, and it should pull it up from the directory. Quite there you can see all the people KATH within our system, and I can send them an invite. When you're invited to a classroom, it'll pop up in your classes just like this, but there'll be a little blue button here where I've got the cursor that says join. Alrighty. So going forward for us, an idea we've had, and think this is going to work well, how we would have weekly classrooms set up for the remote learning. Using the option topic, generally speaking, you might create a classroom section for your subjects, your KLAs, all down the side here, just for organisational purposes. But going forward, we're thinking actually setting it up in days of the week, and then putting all of that day's content within that section over here. So that makes it a little bit more user-friendly, probably a little bit easier to navigate for parents and students. So there's the parent consideration here, because a lot of this stuff will be quite new to them. So Tuesday and Monday. There you go. So you get your days of the week here, so it makes it a little bit easier for students to see. So to assign your work to a specific day, something that's going to be very powerful for actually looking at student work, and a really easy way of tracking it is if a lot of things that you're posting in there where you're requiring students to type on a Google Doc or something, you're probably best off adding it as an assignment. So So you can add your instructions there. If you're unfamiliar with this process, you title what the assignment's going to be, as much or as little instructions you want. You can add resources from your Google Drive, link to a site, upload a file from your computer, anything you think is necessary. But generally speaking, if you're getting students doing any typing, I tend to use a Google Doc or a slide. So that'll just create over there. Now if you want all students to see a specific type of information, so you might have further instructions, or it might be a bit of a template that you set up, so you have heading, chapter 1, chapter 2, all that stuff set up for students. You want them to have the, students to have, all have certain types of the same information. That's been edited. Then by making it so you make a copy for each student, that'll be great, because when you're in the classroom, I'll show you what it looks like in a moment, we can assign that. When you click on that as a teacher, you'll be able to see exactly who's handed it in, who has not. By clicking on here, all the documents, once the students eventually open them, they'll all pop up here in little square icons. And if students are working on those throughout the day, you can just double click. So if there was an assignment just there, for example, let me go back to one of my already existing classrooms. Let's have a look at this one. Yep. So these students have already opened a Google Doc, and if they're working on them right now, so if I had this student here, I could double click on it. I can see the document, especially if they're typing on it, I can see what's happening in real time, which is pretty cool. And then over in this section here, you can actually have private chats, communication with students, either after they've done some work, so it could be some feedback that you give that student, or whilst they're actually writing in there. You could be doing that too, having discussions with them. You might want to talk about the heading there, you might want to make a comment. There he is. Let's move that over. I might say change this, and that's just pretty poor feedback really, but you would obviously do something more detailed with some real work. So that's some ways you can keep a track of student work, and it makes it very easy for you to see what's happening, interact with students, and kind of mark work, I guess, and give feedback as they're doing it. Let's go back up to this one, my test classroom, and back to classwork here. Alrighty, so probably between assignment and I would say material will be the two most common posts that you'll be using in your classroom. So it might be read through all this, I don't know, there might be some type of reading assignment, whatever, and you could be attaching PDFs, etc. That might be one way. You just use the material post. It doesn't necessarily have opportunity there for marking and stuff like that. Keep in mind too, if you're in a larger school, so the reason I said before we're adding all teachers to all classrooms is you might be working, like I said, in a large school, or doing stuff collaboratively as a stage. You might have this knowing very well that the Year 3 class is doing it too. So all of the Google Classrooms that you have access to will pop up here. So if I want this in our Year 3, 4 and Year 3 classroom, I select those boxes, and then when I click post, this piece of material will actually just push right out to all the other classrooms. Okay, so I would make sure that if it's something they're all doing on Monday, because of all the other classrooms have the same topics created in them, that'll push out to the same spot in all those classrooms. You can also deselect work. So for one class in particular, could actually, feature's not turning off. It's okay, we'll ignore that just for now. The all students, there is a way of actually posting to individual students. So let's delete that. So I mean, I won't go into how maybe your day would look, how you would, what you would post during your day. My thinking is here, when I create a post material, that might be, daily schedule with the date. Let's just say today's date, 24th, the 3rd, and you might just dot point what they're going to do for the whole day, about expectations. You could add, like a home learning matrix or something like that. That's a Word doc or a Google doc or something that you've already created. And this type of information, I think, is going to be really useful for parents going forward about expectations, about how the day should be structured for students at school. We're kind of aiming to maybe have students online doing web-based learning for about an hour and a half, so where they're actually engaging and doing stuff on the computer. So this will be important for people to see, okay, so they've put, the teachers assigned 30 minutes of play here and 30 minutes, doing, sketching a bowl of fruit in the kitchen. So they're not activities that they need to be on a computer for. And parents be able to see and maybe work around timetabling the day if they've got a few of their own children at home, about negotiating in an instance where there's only one device. So just something to consider there. So one of the features about, one of the reasons about adding multiple people across classrooms, and it'd be really fantastic, maybe even if across schools, we're adding staff from other schools to our own Google Classrooms, is the ability to reuse a post. Now, I think especially in big schools, or if you've been using Google Classrooms for a really, really long time, you can go back through all the classrooms you've ever been in. So I've got quite a fair few down here, but let's just go to one of the classrooms I'm currently in. If there's something that somebody's put in another classroom that I really like, or something that I've used in years gone by that I want to add to my classroom for today, I go back to the original classroom here, find the post or the content that I want to reuse. So it might be, if they're doing the studies on Mungo Lady and Mungo Man, I want to reuse that in another classroom. I can click, and this little box already down the bottom here is quite important. I always have it set on create new copies of all attachments. Click reuse. So it'll take you into the original post, what it looked like. Now I might think to myself, I actually want to put it in all of the Stage 2 classrooms. I might want to amend it with further instructions, and I might want to remove or add some of the links or things that have been added to it. So I'll take that off there. So it's really important that it's really useful having multiple people added to all of your classrooms for this, because I think that could save a lot of time. And if you're collaborating with other schools, particularly RE subjects and topics that are being covered, it'd be really good if there's someone at one school putting stuff in a Google Classroom. If they add you to their classroom, you'll be able to use that reuse feature and add it to your own classroom. So let's get out of that. I don't actually want to reuse that right now. So that's kind of where we're working from there, as far as how we're structuring the classroom on a weekly basis, how we're going to hopefully streamline a little bit of work with things like reusing, making sure that we, any type of online typing activities, create lots of Google Docs or Google Slides for ease of access for teachers. And that's about it. If you have any questions, please send me an email, gareth.wig@cg.catholic.edu.au.